Hi, everybody. Welcome to my first ever live spoiler review. I'm very excited to do this with you guys. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. First off, I'm going to just give you some quick updates. I'm going to do a video on the Batman set photos right after this. And I'm glad I waited. I'm a little zonked out from, it was a perfect storm over the weekend. It was New York Comic Con, it was the end of The Boys. Then that Cleopatra story dropped, so I've just been like working through the weekend, and I fell asleep in front of my TV last night rewatching season 2 of Harley Quinn. So I needed to kind of recharge earlier today, but some of you just sent me some fantastic new photos I hadn't seen yet for the Batman, so it's going to be a great conversation. So why am I doing a live spoiler review? If this works out, we'll do more of them. I think it's a pretty cool idea. But the idea is, well, first off, I do spoiler reviews for movies and TV shows where the non-spoiler review does close to 100,000 views. Otherwise, it's hard to do a spoiler review because they're so long and edit intense that it takes me about 7 to 8 hours to do a spoiler review. It's a really big commitment. So for a show that isn't garnering a lot of interest, like unfortunately Bly Manor, it's not, I think from a business standpoint, it's not reasonable to do a spoiler review. However, a lot of you really wanted to talk about the show, and it's popular with certain, it is popular with a smaller group. So I thought it would be fun to try this out. Because I didn't want to not do a spoiler discussion. But the way this works is that if you remember, anyone can listen in, but if you remember, you can ask me what you think, directly. You can know exactly what I think about certain aspects because you can just ask me. So I'm very excited to discuss this with you. I think, so I'm not quite sure how to format it because this is new. But I guess we'll start just with, you guys, I think we'll just usually I guide the conversation, but I think because as you can see, this is interactive. No, I think it's on this side. Which side is it on? I can't quite see. Hold on. Yes, here it is. Because it's interactive. Woo! All right. You guys should be able to interact. All right. So we'll just start with these questions. All right. So Mika says, season 3 thoughts. Do you want a new time period? Well, Hill House was current. This was the 80s. I wouldn't stay in the 80s. I think the 80s are this close to being played out, quite frankly. I mean, by the time Wonder Woman 1984 gets here, everyone else will have done that gag, unfortunately, and it was supposed to be one of the first. So I have to tell you, I think for season 3, I think they need to change up a lot because season 2 just has not clicked. And I would do even better. I think that this season tried to have really good representation, but I think that it went overboard in certain ways and actually ended up having weak representation nevertheless. Like I was making this image and you have 2 actresses of color, but neither one of them is in any of the promotional material, which I think is kind of crazy. So maybe, the first one was America, the second one was England. I would maybe pick a beautiful house in another part of the world that would lend itself to having a diverse cast, I think that might be a more organic way to do it. Okay, Dr. Superstition said, what did you think of Hannah and Owen's relationship? It felt weird to me. That's a great question because, as I said in my spoiler review, I thought that Tania Miller, while she did a wonderful job, had no chemistry with her romantic counterpart, who, of course, turned out to be Rahul Kohli. AKA Owen. And they kept saying that they were in love and they liked each other, but I was not seeing that at all. They just seemed to be more like really good friends. I didn't see any chemistry between the two of them. Patrick says they seem more like brother and sister. I almost felt like they were just like paired off. They were the odds and ends left over from everybody else being paired off. And they were like, oh, these two are together. And you're like, really? Like, I thought when he asked her to go away to Paris, it was almost a little bit sad on his part because I'm like, you really don't know anyone else that you get along with? Because I don't think that you guys get along at all. I don't see any connection between the two of you. I just didn't think it worked. I liked both their characters, so that also was a problem because I was like, you both deserve a better love interest. And I have to say, I thought that Hannah being at the bottom of that well with her body all broken and stuff was one of the coolest visuals in the show. I thought it was amazing. And I thought it was interesting that she wasn't at all upset uh, with, what was that kid's name? Where are the kids' names? Miles. She was like, oh, that's too bad. I'd be like, Miles pushed her down a well and she's dead. Or Peter Quint did. She really, got over that. All right, let's see here. Jonathan says, Grace, what was your favorite episode? Mine was episode 8. I really did enjoy. Oh, that's funny, by the way. I have to say, Kyle is right. Bly Manor basically is Dr. Manhattan, with everything being told out of time, out of order, and everything's happening simultaneously. That's really funny. And you can see what happens, how problematic it is to have. I mean, nobody even wants to spend that much time with just Dr. Manhattan because of that. But my favorite episode, Jonathan, at first when episode 8 was unfolding, I was like, are we really going to spend a whole hour on this? I was kind of bummed about it. And I do agree with some people that, of course, because, Kate Siegel is Mike Flanagan's wife, you were like, are you really going to make me spend a whole hour on this storyline just because, of your wife? And also, so I thought it was weird that the people who owned the house years later, decades later, kept their portraits up in the halls. I was like, I'm taking this creepy portrait down. But I thought that my favorite scare was when the dress came to life and choked the sister to death. I thought that was really cool. That was the coolest visual. It was weird because the Viola woman in the lake had the coolest, most interesting visuals. I loved when she killed Peter Quint and he just was like literally swept up in her wake. But I just thought that, I would have preferred that they weren't even related to the rest of the family. But the dress coming to life was it was phenomenal. And I liked that she was stuck in the chest waiting for her daughter to open it. Although if I were the dad, I wouldn't have let the child open that chest either. I'd be like, I'm pretty sure it's cursed. So, I thought throwing it at the bottom of the lake made sense, quite frankly. Jico says, who are my favorite couples and why? I did like Danny and Jamie. Although, again, I thought, like the whole thing about the moonflower, I was like, this is supposed to be romantic, but I'm not really seeing it. I guess my favorite couple, we only saw half of it, but I really liked Henry Thomas as Henry Wingrave. And I thought, I don't know what was wrong with the fact that he liked, of course it was his brother's wife, but I don't understand why it wasn't like, it didn't work out. You shouldn't obviously, I think it's a pretty bad thing to do to your sibling. I think as soon as a sibling dates someone, it's kind of like that person becomes off limits to you, Like I watched The Crown season 4 and, I got it in advance and they talk about the fact that Charles first dated Diana's sister and I'm like, very weird. Marjorie's like, he also got her pregnant. Yeah, and I think it was also shown that he never told Flora that he was her father. And I would think Flora would want to know, quite frankly. So, but for some reason, they were my favorite couple. I really liked Henry Thomas's character. I thought being haunted by, not so much haunted, but, imagining his worst self, keeping him company, I thought was pretty good. Hey, El My Bell. Let me give a couple of shout outs to people who joined in. El My Bell, M. Let's see here. Hey, Allie. So nice to always see you. Richard Reports. Welcome back. Let's see here. I think there are some other people. Let me just see if I can get to anybody. Just, we're going to go till 4:30. Hey, Blurry Vision 1. Hey, Danny Boy 95. That's all I can see. But welcome, everybody. All right, let's go back to the questions. Okay. Dr. Superstition says, I wish they would have explained why the dolls were oddly magical and just showed the ghost locations. I wish they could have afforded to have the dolls get up and move around in there. I thought that would have been pretty cool. I do like a good dollhouse. But yeah, and I liked that it came from her father, that's what the dollhouse was. But I felt that, they didn't go far enough with it. Jico says, thoughts on Danny's fate at the end. I thought it was so sad when it was like she was always with Jamie anyway. Although I thought that Carla Gugino looked absolutely nothing like Amelia Eve, who played younger Jamie. I was like, Jamie totally changed her styling and her hair and everything. It's almost as if she's a totally different person. I thought that Carla Gugino was more like Danny than she was Jamie. But the fact that, Danny was still keeping her company as a ghost, I thought was like really sad. But let's see. I thought when Danny said, you, me, us, to the lady in the lake, I couldn't believe that she did that. I thought that was, hey, Jesse Mason, I thought that was an incredible sacrifice to make that I didn't quite understand why she did it, to be honest with you. You know, I know she wanted to save that child, but it was such a sacrifice to make, and she hadn't been there for that long. I just didn't quite get it. I mean, maybe because she felt so guilty. By the way, did you think that Danny shouldn't have felt guilty? I mean, the only thing she should have felt guilty about for her fiance was telling him. She should have said, "Are you crazy? Don't get out of a car without looking to see if another car is coming." I mean, that's the only thing that I thought was like she should feel guilty about. But I mean, I guess because she didn't tell anyone and say, "Oh, well, you know, here's why he died." I mean, I don't know. That's why you should never, you know, let these things go on. You know, she should have just, you know, ripped that Band-Aid off right away. It was weird, though, that she was such good friends with that guy their whole childhood, and he couldn't tell that she was a lesbian. I thought that was weird. I was like, really? I mean, how about that lady rubbing her hands all over her back? You know, it seemed like pretty obvious to me. Hey, Mikey Bray. Alex says he may have been dumb, but the ghost boyfriend was the scariest visual to me. I did like the visual. I thought it was really cool with the glasses and everything. I thought it was excellent. But they made it like he was like possessive, you know, like he just wouldn't let her go. Like it was kind of weird. I mean, was he jealous, or was he like trying to make her feel guilty? I'm not sure why he would just bother her. Jordan says, "Who is your favorite background ghost and why?" Do you mean like a ghost that was just walking around? I kind of liked the sister in the attic, although I'm surprised, you know, she didn't go around more. Hey, Christian, I'm surprised she didn't walk around more. She just kind of like rolled around in the attic a little bit. I thought the little boy was also, you know, like there were a lot of like red herrings where you were like, I think you could have done a little more with that. I think my favorite of all the ghosts was was Viola from the lake. I thought that stuff was fantastic. The way she would walk every night with the mud. I don't know why everybody was like, they were like, "Oh, these kids and trekking mud in the house." I'd be like, "These are bare feet marks and obviously too large for a child." And they're like, "Whatever, I refuse to face the obviousness of what's happening." But I just thought that was very cool, and the way she just couldn't be stopped. And I thought that Peter Quint's death was absolutely amazing, and the fact that he didn't realize he was dead, and then he saw his own body being dragged down the stairs. I mean, that stuff was great. That stuff was that was the kind of stuff that made me still love the show, even though I had other problems with it. I wouldn't have had their faces fade away. I thought that kind of made them less scary, to be honest with you, instead of more scary. And boy, by the way, didn't you think that Oliver Jackson Cohen looked amazing in a turtleneck? I was like, that's the best dressed ghost I've ever seen. Yeah, Kyle, Peter Quint's accent was crazy. And I also thought it was ridiculous that he could go from being a chauffeur to being Henry Wingrave's second in command. I'd be like, didn't you start out as the chauffeur? Do you have even a degree in business? I'd be like, why do all these people feel that they can climb up the ladder of success in these other jobs that have nothing to do with it? He's like, oh yes, have you met the partners at my firm? One used to be my chauffeur and one was my nanny, but now they help me run the firm. You'd be like, I'm not investing my money here. Hey, Bence. Daniel, your chat's working. Christian says, I'm glad Becca tricked Peter in the final plan after all this stuff he did to her. You know, I thought that was pretty accurate, though. I thought that I really commended the show for what it, you know, that this guy, Peter Quint, claimed that he loved Rebecca Jessel so much. He was like, oh, I love you so much. Can I borrow your body? And she was like, sure. And then he used it to kill her so she would keep him company forever. I thought that, you know, if you're ever in a relationship that you think might be abusive, you think about this show and be like, am I going to get drowned? You know, I thought that stuff was really, really strong. I thought that was excellent. Although I didn't like the fact that she was so lost when she, you know, Peter Quint's spirit was going around twirling his mustache. But I thought that, you know, Rebecca Jessel was like, where am I? And I'm like, come on. Why is she not? She was a very smart person. Jordan says, what is the one thing you would change if you could about season 2? I wouldn't have had all the characters jumping through time, being tucked away. I was as frustrated as they were and they would get tucked away. I was like, this sounds like hell. Who would want to relive these fake moments? I mean, they weren't real. You weren't actually with the person you wanted to be with. Like, I thought it was so sad when the little children were like, so we'll get to be with our parents forever? And I'd be like, they're not your parents. They're just shadows of your parents. I really wanted to know how they died, by the way. They kept being like, what happened to them? Are you sure? Maybe they're still alive. Oh, that's horrible. I'm like, what happened? Maybe because they died in India. Maybe that'll be season 3. Maybe we'll go to India and find out what happened. Jeff agrees. The dream hopping was a bit too much. Yeah, I was like, and also, I don't know why, for instance, Hannah kept going back to that when she was interviewing Owen. I mean, I know she said why she did, but I was like, this is just horrible. And I don't understand why sometimes the person you were interacting with could answer you. Like, who was taking on that sentient form? Was it the house? They'd be like, yes, this is a dream. And maybe, why do you think you keep coming back to this moment? And, something weird's happening right now. Maybe you need to snap out of it and go help some people. And I'm like, who are you talking to? That was frustrating to me. Patrick says Danny shouldn't have been sleeping with Jamie while on the job. So unprofessional. That's funny. I think it was supposed to be a surprise that Danny and Jamie would hook up. Because when I got the notes with my screeners, they were like, don't tell anybody about that. Hey, Kirby Clay. They're like, that's a surprise. And I was like, okay. But I have to say, as soon as Jamie walked in the door and she was this hot gardener, I was like, I see where this is going. I mean, it was like really obvious. I mean, it was super obvious as to what they were doing. I wasn't surprised at all. That's the only reason that she would be there, that they would cast the role that way. Mika says, is it better than Ratched? Oh, I definitely think it's better than Ratched, for sure. People love Ratched, though. I mean, Bly Manor would be lucky to be as successful as Ratched. Roy, I think that you might not have found Jamie hot, but I think she was very much put forward in that context. Allie says, Grace, did you like the Scottish accents? I did not. I think you have to be from the region to really be offended by them. I just was like, I thought they were interesting choices. Oliver Jackson Cohen having that accent I thought was crazy. But it worked for me. Like, for me, the oddest thing was Henry Thomas's British accent. As I said, it's like an upper class Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins. But I liked it. I thought it was great. Natalia said her Scottish friend did not like it. Em said, what did you think was the saddest part of the show? I think Danny sacrificing her soul, to me, might have been the saddest. Because, with Rebecca Jessel, everybody warned her. So you were kind of like, yeah, you had a lot of chances to get out of this relationship. And I thought, by the way, Jamie's advice to Rebecca to take the opportunity of Peter Quint disappearing and trying to get a promotion was like some of the nicest, best advice I've ever seen anyone give anybody in real life or fantasy. I mean, it was really cool. It was so nice of her to do that. I mean, that's women looking out for women. I mean, you forget women looking out for women. You rarely see anybody looking out for anyone in that regard with not wanting anything, it doesn't benefit them at all. She was just trying to be nice. I thought that was incredible, which I thought, made what happened to Rebecca all the more frustrating, but I guess in some ways realistic. So I think the saddest thing was that Danny sacrificed her soul like that. And and for what? I mean, I guess that she, I don't know. I'd be like, let's go down there and get that stupid chest. I guess it's too bad nobody knew the story of what happened. I'd be like, maybe if we get the chest out of the lake, I wonder why nobody drained that lake. Jeff, I did like Danny's accent. I thought she was great. Chris says the cast needs more name talent to compete with American Horror Story. That might be a good point. I mean, I think some of the people returning from the first season was supposed to be the big deal. Blurry vision. The hand on Jamie's shoulder at the end was supposed to be Danny, so she was waiting for Danny to show up and be like, "Hey, what's up?" But the sad thing is that Danny was already there. She just couldn't see her, and I felt, I thought that to me was just so sad. I was like, "This is so sad." I had to go watch something else when I was finished the show because I was like, "That's so freaking depressing." And I'm of the camp that people should always know. I think they should have told those kids what happened. They're like, "Oh, the kids forgot." And I thought it was funny that Danny was like, "Do you mean to tell me they don't remember the personal sacrifice that I've made?" And they're like, "Nope." And I mean, I don't blame Danny for getting kind of upset about it. She'd be like, "I kind of sacrificed half my life, and I'm going to go sit at the bottom of a lake, and I'm a little annoyed that no one's going to know except for my ex-wife." Sean says, "Grace, where would you rather spend the night? Hill House or Bly Manor?" Neither one, thank you very much. No bed and breakfast for me. Maybe a hotel next would be a good idea. I don't know if they can do like a third house. I think it's going to be a little ridiculous, maybe. The Boho Raven says, "What do you think season 3 will be about?" Let's see if they make a season 3. I suspect Mike Flanagan's going to be a little annoyed about this. I think he's going to be like, "Fine, whatever. Go do something else, God damn it." I mean, this is being so poorly received. I think that if they were to make a season 3, Latin America's a good idea, Chris. I think there'd have to be substantial changes. Chris says, "No more slow burns." Sean, I agree. Victoria Pedretti would be an excellent rogue. She's a fantastic rogue. Tom says, "The Haunting of Arkham Asylum," or just a Tuesday, basically. Stephen Turner says, "Do you think that there is a standout star that could pop like American Horror Story had Sarah Paulson?" I gotta tell you, no, because the second season didn't do well enough. I mean, based on the reception of the second season, there is a problem with this show. And if I were Netflix, I'd be like, "I gotta red pen this up, baby. I gotta rip this apart." And I would say that Mike Flanagan needs supervision. I would maybe want to do another season, but I'd be like, "Mike, you need more supervision." I think he got a blank check after season 1. And then you never give anyone a blank check. It's always good to have supervision. Hey, Time Shifter. That's a cool name. Joaquin says they should do a season in Latin America with La Llorona, Tulivera, or so many different scary stories. That would be cool. And I like India, as Patrick said. I think India could be really cool. I would just do a different area. That Scatterbrain says, "I think Mike actually stepped away a bit from the show." I think that he did, but he was still an overseeing force. And let's not forget that Hill House wasn't perfect either. I mean, it was better up until the end, but I really hated the end of Hill House. I was like, "I can't believe I spent so much time watching this and the ending was so bad." Mika says, "How many more seasons do you think that this show has?" I think maybe one more. Although, it never trended. The coverage, a really hot show like this should hit 100,000 views for a review for it. So the fact that it didn't, I think, is disconcerting. I think, although that's partially on Netflix. Like, Netflix doesn't advertise stuff anymore, which I think is problematic. I mean, if something becomes hot on Netflix, it's because everybody watches it and is like, "Oh my God, that was so great." And then that's what does their work for them. But I feel like, I think they need to advertise a little bit more because there's just so much coming out. New Orleans, Jordan, that might be the best idea yet. A scary house in New Orleans. Oh, that sounds great. Hey, Matt Linden. We'll do it till 4:35, and then I got to work on this Batman video. Hey, Jonathan Mua. Patrick says New Orleans is new to American Horror Story. I never watch American Horror Story, so I'm fine with that. They have such good food in New Orleans. Although I went there a few years after Hurricane Katrina, and it was sad. The city, I think maybe it's doing better now, but it really was derailed by that. So much history literally washed away. Very sad. Very sad. A haunted boarding school. Yeah, I would try to do something that wasn't like Another Family. I think we've had enough of the families. Oh, a Japanese house is a good idea too. You know, The Grudge, all those good scary stories. So we'll just do a few more questions, and then I'm going to check out. I don't know about a hospital stew, pew pew, because that reminds me of Ratchet a little bit. Although Ratchet did not seem at all like it seemed more like a hotel than a mental institution. Sean Turner said, did I prefer Hill House or Bly Manor? I think Hill House had better visuals. I don't know. To me, they're kind of similar. I think Hill House maybe more so because Bly Manor just got a little boring in the middle. Like, I thought the first 3 episodes were phenomenal, and then I thought from there it kind of started to fall apart. M says Bly Manor hurt me more emotionally. That's funny. Clueless Artist says, Grace, do you think they'll go for a 3rd season? I think they will, but I would only greenlight one more. I give him one chance to fix it because Hill House was so popular. Although I gotta say, after Dr. Sleep and now this, I'd be like, Mike, come on. Take a hint. Patrick, I will definitely do WandaVision episode reviews. I'm gonna start I feel I should have reviewed The Boys week to week. It throws me off when they do 3 episodes at first, because I guess you do 1 through 3 and then you do a single afterwards. But I feel like I made a mistake not reviewing The Boys weekly, and so I'm going to try not to make that mistake again. It's tough because, Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn don't generate enough interest to review those shows week to week. But maybe they will now that they're going to be on HBO Max, because nobody had DC Universe. But the Disney Plus, like a Disney Plus Marvel show, or like when the DC shows start on HBO Max that are like the Batman and Peacemaker, I'll definitely be reviewing those. Oh, Brent, I'm glad you liked the live review. Chris, I'm going to talk about Zoe Kravitz in a video after this. Francisco, I'll definitely be covering The Mandalorian for sure. Allie, you didn't realize it was the 80s? I thought the 80s clothes were the most unflattering pants ever on Victoria Pendretti. I was like, whoa, those are crazy pants. Oh, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the live review. I wasn't sure how this was going, but I'm glad you guys are liking it. That's excellent. Yeah, Dr. Superstition. I was like, Victoria Pendretti's in very good shape, and those pants made her look like she was not. I was like, wow, that's so sad. I feel bad for her. I was like, stop shooting her from behind. That's right, Roy. Those jeans were the real horror story. I was like, is this your closet? Oh, my God. I believe that WandaVision will be a weekly show. I think The Boys really proved that a weekly show is the best idea. I don't think like Netflix will ever go to a weekly release strategy, but I think everybody else, I think it's a good way to go for other shows. Thank you, Emma. That's very sweet of you. Jico says, was the ending satisfying for you? Actually, that's a great question, Jico. I did not find the answers to a lot of the questions in Bly Manor satisfying. I was like, I needs to know, which is why I binged it so quickly. And also because I appreciated all the atmosphere. But I didn't really think that any of the answers were as good as I wanted them to be. I thought they could have done more with possessing the kids, instead of just having Miles want to smoke and say inappropriate things to people. I just felt like, and I thought the stuff with the, Viola and her sister in the lake, while that was like a fun black and white adventure, I felt like it was kind of not great that it had nothing to actually do with the family that was currently in the house. I thought the stuff with Peter Quint, I didn't like the cop-out that he was like, he's not a horrible guy. He has an abusive parent. And also, by the way, did his father like sexually abuse him? I wasn't sure what they were hinting at there. So like all that stuff, I was like, maybe, can't he just be evil? Some people are just jerks, Like, so I felt like, And I don't know what his plan was. Obviously, it was to take money and go to America. But how did he think he wouldn't get caught? I mean, they have extradition laws. I mean, they wouldn't be like, damn it, he skipped town to America. Oh, well, you're out of luck, Henry Wingrave. You know, and I thought the fact that, you know, and then the fact that Henry never, you know, by the way, one of the worst things in the show was when Henry drove up and he's like, I feel like there's a premonition that I must get to Hill House. I must get to Bly Manor. Hey, Freedom Tompkins. I feel like Flora's in danger. Who cares what happens to Miles? He's not my kid. So he drives out there and he pulls up just as, you know, Flora is being taken away by the woman in the lake. And he runs up and then he gets like killed almost immediately. And he just like goes right over. And I was like, he drove all the way for that? I was so glad he wasn't dead. Because I was like, if he dies, I'm going to be like really upset. Like, he should have stayed away from this house. So I'm glad that he was brought back to life so quickly. But I mean, like, it was so anticlimactic. You were like, yeah, he's finally going to come and he's going to tell Flora that he's her father and he's going to finally step up and do something. And he just was like, you know, weak for the rest of his life. I mean, it was crazy to me. I don't know. It just bothered me. Roy, I think because he felt a little less guilty, I guess, his evil doppelganger went away. I did think that Flora, yeah, it is way past. I like talking to you guys. I did think that the actress who played Flora was excellent. Very, very good. Reviews this week. On Wednesday, the embargoes lift for Rebecca on Netflix. I watched that this weekend, and then I'm going to watch maybe tonight or tomorrow because the review embargo lifts on Wednesday as well. Love and Monsters with Dylan O'Brien. So both those embargoes lift on Wednesday. So I'll be reviewing those on Wednesday. And I'm not quite sure. We'll see what the week has in store for us. All right, everybody, have a lovely afternoon, and I'm going to go work on the Batman video right now. All right, bye, everybody. Bye.